Hello everyone, today's poem is 浪淘沙令帘外雨潺潺 by 李渔. A very long name. This one is about the late spring, so it's in most cases a lot of rains. And the name 帘外雨连连, outside of the curtain, outside my windows, it rains and rains. 雨潺潺, 潺潺 is the word similarly the sound of raining. It describes the rain never stops, continues. And the first part, 浪淘沙令, is the 曲牌, so it's the rhythm's name. So the Chinese poem tradition is it should have a music combined with the lyric or the poem. So whatever you call it, the lyric, the poem, the lyric. But this tradition has broke several times in the long Chinese history because of the war, because of the dynasty change. So the musical part is quite easily to be lost because the musicians, the things to record the music is lost. But the poems still very easily kept because it's the written words, and most of people is capable reading it, and so there's a much more people they kept the poems or the lyrics among the throughout the country. So it's quite much easier to be kept after a big war or the dynasty change. So that's why the music was invented several times through the Chinese history, and this poem was written in the time of the Tang dynasty. It was so-called 五代十国, 5 dynasty and 10 countries, which means roughly the time is 100 years. So it's 5 dynasty. Normally one king will take 20 years of the regime. So 5 dynasty is 100 years. 十国, which means the country was split into 10 countries. And the poem, the poet of this poem, 李渔, is one of the king of the 10 countries. The kingdom's name was so-called Tang. The capital city is at the Nanjing city today. So where I spend my campus life there. And even today, Nanjing, the meaning is the South capital. From the rhythm's name, we also can tell the time. It's between the late Tang dynasty and before the Song dynasty, because the name 浪淘沙令 is refers to one type of the musical rhythms. It's originated in the late Tang dynasty. It also so-called 长短句. So the sentences in the poem could be in one poem there's short sentences, there's long sentences, not like the most of the Tang poem. You see it's 5 characters in a sentence or 7 characters in a sentence. So it has long sentences and it has short sentences, so-called 长短句. And the other name is 小令. 小 is little, 令 is refers to the rhythm. So from the name 浪淘沙令, you can also know that. And before the Tang dynasty, the musical part is always kept or is ruled by the central government, by the musical department of the central government, 乐府. And in the Tang dynasty, it became much more openly in the there has the central government sort of the musical department. There's also the lot of musicians in the societies. It was so-called 乐坊 or 教坊, 唐教坊. So it could be the government organizations, or it could be just some of the musical band in the city, in the capital city, in the big commercial cities, Yangzhou, whatever. And so between the Tang dynasty and the Song dynasty, which is the 五代十国, which is this poem was written the time being. It's the changes, the mainstream of the poem writings is from the Tang mainstream to the Song mainstream, and this poem was in the middle. It can be treated as the pioneers of the Songci, which is the mainstream of the Song dynasty. And in the Song dynasty, most of the popular or the mainstream poems is so-called Songci. It comes with a music rhythm. It comes with a predefined sentence patterns with long sentences and short sentences. And then the poem, they rewrite the lyrics or the poems again and again, so it became a new poem or new songs. So you can, from the title, you can also see that there's two parts. The first part is the rhythm's name is predefined, no matter the music or the sentence patterns, the whatsoever, and even the rhythms of the words, the Chinese, because the Chinese words has rhythms up and down tones. And the second part, 帘外雨潺潺, is the name for this specific lyric or poem. That's the Songci. And today as usual, we lost all the musical part, no matter which dynasty it is. So we can only appreciate the lyric parts or the poem, we call it. From my own experiences, there's so huge difference between the Tang poems and Song poems, because some of the Tang poems they also have the rhythm, have the music, but majority of them is not necessarily come with a music, or it's not with music. It's only the lyrics or the poems. And the Songci is all combined or with a music. When you read it, so you can read a Tang poem, but you cannot read a Song poem, 宋词, because one is reading, the other is sing. So the differences for me is when I read the Tang poems, it's quite smooth. When you read, you feel the smooth, you feel the crispy sound. It's very pleasant readings. When you read the Song poems, because it's supposed to be sung with the music, but now we don't have the music, so you read it. Some Song poems is still is smooth. When you're reading, smooth is crispy, but a lot of them, when you're reading it, you cannot feel the pleasant through the readings. So for the, no matter it's Tang poem or Song poem or the other dynasty poems, you should read. So that's make the huge difference, and that's give you extra pleasure when you're reading it. Li Yu is a unique person. He was so-called 千古词帝, which means he was the king for the Song poem, 宋词, I should say 宋词, for 1,000 years or through the history. So that refers to aspects. First of all, he's a king. The second, he was the pioneers of the 宋词. And third, he was the super master of the 宋词, the Song poem. And for himself, he has a very unique life story. He's the second to position to the throne. And at the very beginning, nobody think he has the chance to become the kings, and he was so good at writing poems, paintings, songs, musicals, whatsoever, but nothing related with the power, with the political things. And anyhow, it's a long story, but finally, nobody expected, he became the king of the kingdom, Nantang, and with the capital city in Nanjing City today, the place Nanjing City today. And unfortunately, there's 10 kingdoms, and maybe not so much when he was ascend his throne. He became the king, but he's not the power. The country is so weak, and even he has done a lot of things. He's a so smart guy. You can see it through his poems, through his 小令. But in most cases, the people will think, the average Chinese people today think he's not a smart guy and he's not diligent. He don't care too much about the political or his kingdom, and all the time he was spent is with the beautiful girls and writing the poems. Only when you read the real history, that's in the country, before he became a king, he don't care, but when he became a king, he's so very smart guys. He's doing anything can help his country or help his position. He does. Anyhow, the kingdom is getting weaker and weaker because of the surrounding situations and because of the previous kings. The one person cannot against the fortune, so he cannot against fortune. So finally, he was captured by the king of the Song, so which become the Song dynasty finally. Although he was gave a lot of money and high rank positions in the Song kingdom, but he has to live in the Song capital, Bianliang, and like a prisoner. And also his wife, or the previous queen, has to serve the emperor of the Song dynasty from time to time. That's a big insult to himself. In the last 3 years of his life in the Song capital, Bianliang, he write a lot of the poems expressing his sorrow and sadness, his memory to his kingdom. And finally, most people think that's the poems that make the Song emperor very angry and ordered to kill the poet Li Yu, the previous king. Li Yu has several masterpieces still read by today's people, and several phrases he created became the idiom to today, which proved his talent on the wordings. And not like the song poet afterwards. So almost all the song poets, when they're writing the poems, the topics all concentrate on the personal feelings, the things surrounded him. And Li Yu actually inherit the Chinese traditions that the intellectual people, the scholars, the first thing first, they should serve the country. So the major concerns for the intellectual, the elite people should be about the country. And this could be the born of this poet Li Yu, because he was born as a king. So the things he saw and he thinks about most of the time is the king, the people, and his rulings. And so that's maybe an advantage for Li Yu. And in the Song dynasty, the country, actually the landscape getting much smaller, and the poem, actually the political is not went very well. So many political struggles. So the majority of the poet, they only care the things or personal feelings, or the things between men and women, or some of the scenic views surrounded him. So not much of the topic on the country level, on the about the people, about the country. And also his own experience, the huge change of his lifetime. He was born in a king's family and happily became a king. And then he was captured and became the last king of the dynasty, Tang dynasty. And then he was exiled from time to time by the Song emperor. So that's a huge change for a person, and he felt it and he write it, and with the true feelings. Okay, let's see this very simple, very moving, very touching poems by a abandoned king. 浪淘沙令，帘外雨潺潺，李渔。帘外雨潺潺，春意阑珊。罗衾不耐五更寒。梦里不知身是客，一晌贪欢。独自莫凭栏，无限江山。别时容易见时难，流水落花春去也，天上人间。So try to read it by yourself, and maybe you can feel the same feelings as me. It's hard to find the result when you're reading these poems, even you know precisely all the meanings of each sentences. 帘外雨潺潺, it rains outside of the curtain non-stop. So the lian, the curtain, is a little different from today's curtain. In the ancient time, it could be made of the pearl, it could be made of the bamboo, it could be made of the very thin silk. The point is the curtain is see-through, so you can see the something outside a little bit, and with mysterious. And so that's the Lian, and this gave more atmosphere to the situation. 春意阑珊，春意 the feeling of the spring is getting weak and weak. 阑珊 something faded or something is gone. 阑珊 is the 叠韵word, so which means the finals is same. Both is an, 蓝, shan. The final is an. So that's the feature of the Chinese. We like to use this very good to hear, good to your ears words quite often. 阑珊 is one of them. 罗衾不耐五更寒. 罗 silk, 衾 is the quilt. 不耐五 it cannot hold the cold of 五更. The ancient Chinese divided the night time into 5 periods. So 五更 is a time of 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., which supposed you should be sleeping at that time. So here, when the poet writing this, it definitely shows he's awake. And the surface is said it's because of the cold, but suppose he's quite well off at the time being, even he was as a prisoner. So that's because of the something else, something of his thinkings, and he feels cold. 梦里不知身是客，一晌贪欢. So all the words so simple, straightforward, but it's really hard to explain because it has so many aspects. First thing first, 梦里不知身是客. At the previous sentence it said he cannot sleep, and here 梦里. So where is the dream? Or he just implies after they captured by the Song Emperor, he was captured. It's always like a dream, or maybe his whole life is like a dream. It's always in the dream, and because it's in a dream, the lifetime is in a dream, so he had some happy hours for a period of time. 一晌贪欢, so he had some happy hours for a period of time. 不知身是客 means he don't know he was a guest. So this should be traced down to the Chinese philosophies, the very ancient philosophies. So roughly 3,000 years ago, the Chinese believe the lifetime is just like a journey, and the people or all kinds of creatures is a guest. He just goes through the journey during his lifetime, and the home is the death. So that's the home, the destination for all the creatures, for all the people. 生者为过客. The people who's alive is just the passengers, the guest. 死者为归人. The dead is the people who at home. 归人, he's at his destinations. So let's look back at this poem. 梦里不知身是客. So now he lead a life as a dream. So he don't know he's a guest. Because he read a lot. He's an intellectual, of course. He should know all the philosophies of the Chinese Asian philosophies. He should know he's a guest. He's on a journey. The life is a journey. So he forget that. It means he has to, because the life. So you can imagine the life for him is such a sorrow, such a sadness. He has to forgot a lot of things. The ABCs for intellectual. Life is a journey, and that is the destination. And also, you can explain the other way, because his home is in the Nanjing city, and now he was captured to the Song capital, Bianliang. So he was a guest in the city of Bianliang, and that's a big insult, or that's a big sorrow for him as well. So he tried everything he could to forget that. So he has the happy hours sometimes, have drinks, have the beauties, whatever. So that's on the surface. The deepest reason is he has such a insult on his fame or on whatever. So on his beliefs, it could be on because he tried to forget the ABCs for a Chinese. The life is the journey, the death is the home. Now he get to something more specific about himself. 独自莫凭栏，无限江山。独自 So when he was alone, 莫 never. 凭栏 栏 is a railing. So in the high-rise buildings, in the big platform, so normally that's a place for the Chinese to climb up, to look further, to look around, to see the rivers, to see the mountain, to see the beautiful scenics. Especially, he's a king. He should climb up to the high places quite often to see his kingdom, to see his people. So now this is a regret. When he was alone, he shouldn't go to that place on the railings. So his arm on the railings, that's a typical gesture. Average Chinese can imagine to look around, because the around is the 无限, the vast country land. So the Jiangshan is the symbol for the country land. And very interestingly, before the 五代十国, in most cases, when the people refers to the country land, they use 河山. 河, the Yellow River. 山, the mountain, could be the one of the 5 sacred mountains, or could be any big mountains along the Yellow River. So when you climb up the mountains, you see the Yellow River. That's the mother river for the Chinese, of course, as always. And then you can see the vast land. So Jiangshan is 河山岛. In that time, before Tang, before the 五代十国, from the Han Dynasty to the Tang Dynasty, always refers to the country land. And then, until this time, especially this king, Li Yu, was born or was living along the Yangtze River. So his country land is Jiangshan. So I give you a little bit tips. Whenever you see the 河山, it could be from a northerner or something written before the 五代十国, or and if you read someone refers to the country land as Jiangshan, he could be a southerner, and it's very likely to be the poems or literatures after Tang Dynasty. So that's 河山 and Jiangshan, the country land. So that's the regret he expressed, because the country land used to be under his name, and now it's the Song dynasties. 别时容易见时难. So when they see very well, it's quite easy to see very well, but you want to see it again, it's so hard. It could be could not happen even in the lifetime. So here it looks like to tell something about people and people, but here actually treat his homeland or his kingdom, his own kingdom, as a person. When he say farewell to Nanjing city, to his kingdom, it's so easy. But now he can never see it again. That's all the regret and sorrows. 流水落花春去也，天上人间. So that's all ordinary words, very plain, simple words, but express the feelings as boundless. 流水, the flowing river. So remember, in the ancient China, the shui is river. It's always river. It's not water. The floating river, and the falling flowers. Because in the very beginning, we know it's the late spring. So and rains. The rains also make the flowers drop more quickly, and the floating river and the falling flowers is dynamic. It's very dynamic, and through the traditions, the rivers always represent the floating of time, the time passings. So it is firstly appeared in Zhuangzi roughly almost 3,000 years ago. In Zhuangzi, I think it's 2,500 years ago precisely. So from Zhuangzi, the Liu Shui became the time passing. It has the time passing meanings through the Chinese history. 落花 is always dynamic. It also make you feel the time changing, and also has something else, because the flower is the most best times, and the most best time has passed. That may add some of the sadness when you think about the time is passing by. The time is passing is already a little bit sadness for the most cases, and now the flower is gone. So 落花流水, that make a perfect situation, image, and the feelings for a Chinese. 春去也, so it double emphasize the spring has gone. 春去也. A second thought, with all the above sorrow and sadness, the spring, even the flowers falling down, and the spring has gone, the flowers gone, it will come back the next year. But what about his kingdom, his country, his own city, the Nanjing city? He can never come near or go back to it again. He will never see it again. And in this sense, when we're thinking about this sense, or the poet him thought about this point, his life is just like the flowers has gone, because there's no meaningless things for him anymore. And the last words also shows the hesitations. 天上人间. So in one way we can explain, before he was captured, or when he was a king, it's sort of the life in the heaven, and now he was just dropped out to the human's world, because he cannot say he was living in the inferno or in some of the worst places, because the Song's emperor will get angry. So he used the heaven and the human's world to make a contrast. And before it's just like heaven, and now it's the human's world. Or in other sense, it's a hesitation. All the meaningless things for him has gone, and the time is passing by, never stop. So what his own decision, he goes to the heaven, which means he die, or he go back to his destination, 归, or he still continue to stay here in the human's world. So that also could be treated as his hesitation to die or not to die. So even with this very delicate or very subtle or not very slightly compliant feelings in these poems, not very soon the Song's emperor ordered killing him, and he was poisoned to death. Okay, that's all. 流水落花，天上人间。What a wonderful image it built. Bye bye.